Alright, so how familiar are you with the Fire Emblem series of video games?
I have played Super Smash Brothers. No, and now I have actually played. I got suckered into playing Three Houses, and I loved it. That's it, though.
Alright, so you know how Fire Emblem gets a lot of love these days from a lot of people, not just Nintendo, but there's a lot of people who really praise Fire Emblem, especially after Heroes and everything. They're saying, Fire Emblem's the best strategy RPG series there is out there. It's got a lot of really good character dynamics and a lot of really hot characters, right?
This is going to be about Disgaea, isn't it?
Yes. Disgaea deserves all the praise that Fire Emblem gets, except much, much more. And I don't understand why, and it makes me angry.
Visibility. I mean, Disgaea, to my understanding, was cursed by being on
the PlayStation 2, one of the most popular video game consoles of all time.
Oh, my familiarity is with the PSP versions.
Oh,
whatever was out on the PSP is what like
the PSP
friends
version.
would try to show me.
The very first PSP version is a remake of the one that was on the PS2. But I do think that some PS2 games were cursed in the sense that the PS2 has 1 million games. There are 1 million games for the PS2, and a lot of them were buried under the avalanche of insert popular PS2 game here. Like, for RPGs, it's, hey, here's Final Fantasy X. This is the game you buy for people who like RPGs.
Right, and then another RPG is like, hey, what if I could have a turn? And they're like, no, Final Fantasy X 2.
Final Fantasy X 2, baby! Anyway, so yes, Disgaea is kind of cursed in the sense of visibility. I mean, it was on the DS, which is like also an incredibly popular video game console that was also plagued by mountains of shovelware. So I suppose that there was no real good chance for Disgaea to ever get the same kind of foothold. That being said, Fire Emblem wasn't popular out here until the 3DS. So, like, I think that Fire Emblem was also kind of cursed up until somewhat recently. So I don't really get the deal. Like, Disgaea has everything that Fire Emblem has. It has compelling stories. It has hot characters. It has everything anyone could ever want in a strategy RPG, and then also more. It has good music, which is, like, big hot take of the episode, I suppose. I don't think Fire Emblem music is good.
I think to my understanding, Fire Emblem music is probably, like, necessary.
Yeah, like, it serves a role, doesn't it? It's not, like, made out of the biggest amount of heart. It's more made with, like, this video game requires music in it.
Oh, I would argue. I mean, like, the first time you heard that track in Temple and Melee.
That's a good arrangement, yes. That's the only Fire Emblem song I've ever heard in Melee, or in Smash Brothers.
Oh.
Because they keep remixing it.
Oh. Now, the Three Houses soundtrack, I think, is gorgeous.
All right.
The title track is absolutely beautiful. It has lyrics, and there's also a lyricless version that plays at some points in the game. All of the tracks that play in the fights I thought were super memorable, even if I couldn't tell them all apart, because I blitzed through the game really, really hard. So
all right, that's fair.
I have a little bit of trouble distinguishing one thing from another when it comes to the music from the game that I got through really fast, and it was my first experience with the franchise.
Yes, all right, that's very fair. That being said, is there a lot of musical difference in the Fire Emblem series?
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at by saying it was necessary, because it's thematic and it works, but yes, it's not a and it's a series that needs that kind of music because it's trying to paint a certain air, whereas with Disgaea, I feel like Disgaea can be more of the sort of like almost Sonic the Hedgehog-esque over-dramatic.
It kind of is, and it also gets to be a lot more eclectic, which I think, again, another hot take, I think a video game that is allowed to have eclectic music is better.
Says the guy with 8 Katamari Damacy t-shirts.
Shut up. Anyway, these are my hot takes about how Disgaea doesn't get the love it deserves, and how I think I'm not going to buy the Fighter's Pass if Laharl doesn't end up on it.
That's who you're holding out for?
That's who I'm holding out for.
I mean, all that Disgaea stuff just got ported to the Switch.
And it keeps getting ported to the Switch, and I think Disgaea 6 is going to be Switch exclusive at first, which is a first. Like, the new game in the series is going to be exclusive for a Nintendo console, much like Sonic. When you think about that. Like, Heroes hit the GameCube before it hit the other consoles.
Huh.
And then who showed up in Brawl?
Solid Snake.
God damn it. It's still cool. My name is Tony.
And my name is Jesse.
And this is a podcast where we talk about things that are still cool in the year, insert the current year here because we don't want to date the episode that much.
We will inevitably date the episode because what's happening in the Lord's year, current year, is difficult to not bring up in passing.
That's true, but doesn't matter what year it is. We're going to talk about stuff that we find still cool, sometimes with a critical eye and sometimes with an eye, just a regular eye, where I just enjoy something.
And that's fair. And I think in this day and age of YouTube reviews and critical podcasts, not Critical Role podcasts, but like critical podcasts, I think that a lot of the time we don't just enjoy media for the sake of enjoying it.
No, we enjoy it because it means something to us at a deeper level than just funny blue hedgehog make funny joke.
Like, you know, we got to sit around and explain why Sonic Adventure is an analogy for our current generation, yeah. Or why Rouge the Bat is the only functional adult in the entire series, or you know. But one of my favorite things though is giant monster movies.
All right,
and those are definitely, you know, I've watched critical reviews of these movies, but for the most part I kind of don't care. I more or less watch them to reflect. It's like I haven't seen Godzilla versus Megalon since I was a child, and I don't want to watch it again, but I want to like be reminded of it. So I'll watch a reviewer and they're like, this movie is bad but like in a fun way, and I'm like, okay, so that seems to be the whole consensus with the giant monster movie genre.
Oh, okay.
Is like, we know this is not
good,
but,
objectively.
Yeah, but it is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody's trying to impart deeper meaning, because Godzilla came out of the gate as an analogy for the horrors of nuclear weaponry.
Yes.
And then immediately, like, degraded into...
fun monster movie.
Right. So it started off with this big, deep meaning, and then immediately got to just being enjoyable to watch for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And so King of the Monsters, the newest movie that came out, and then Legendary Pictures' first shot at Godzilla in 2014, I think were a pretty mixed bag, because 2014 tried to be too serious.
All right. Kind of like the first Godzilla.
I mean, in a sense, yes. You spend a lot of time with the people.
Yeah.
But instead of the drama being about Godzilla, like it is in the original Godzilla movie.
Oh, is it like human drama?
It's like, I gotta find my family, I'm in the military, my dad is maybe related to this project, and then he dies, and
Gross.
question mark. Yeah, it's a lot of like, where's my wife? My dad died in the thing. There's a monsters, question mark. Like, the protagonist seems like wholly unconcerned.
Yeah, like he is not related to Godzilla until he's needed to be by the movie.
And then I think they figured that out because King of the Monsters is the most fun I've had in a movie probably in my whole life.
All right, that's a good swing back.
Yeah, they dialed it in the other direction and then cranked it up as much as they could.
All right.
King of the Monsters is one of my favorite sit down and have some fun, and it was also fairly competent as a movie.
All right.
So sliding out of that real quick, I adored Rampage and Venom.
Okay.
Which came out in between the two Godzilla
and
movies.
I've also heard good things about both of those films as well.
But they're not good movies.
Yeah.
They're both terrible. They're actually both the same movie. A thing falls from space and affects the main character in some way where he has to partner with the thing from space, or the thing that was affected by the thing from space.
Has to partner with...
And go on a journey where they are hunted and tracked by something related to the thing from space, while an Ivory Towers CEO-type, cold-hearted business person attempts to reclaim the thing from space to use for inhumane, controlling reasons, and at the end of the movie, everybody involved climbs a tower, and then the tower explodes, and then we think the thing from space partner or thing from space afflicted partner is dead, and then they're not. And that's Rampage and Venom.
How can they both be so much the same movie?
Because they're Hollywood formulaic. First shot for a Spider-Man universe movie without Spider-Man, and then another shot at a video game movie that was doomed to fail.
Yeah.
But I would say that, like, unlike King of the Monsters, they're both, like, not competent movies, but they are just fun.
All right.
The old turn your brain off and don't think about
watch
it.
the cool, funny thing happen.
Yeah, the most I've analyzed of those movies is how similar they are to each other. I've never tried to justify any of the dumb decisions characters made. I've never tried to like look past the weird everything. They're just weird, fun movies. I highly recommend everything that just came out of my mouth. I highly recommend, except maybe 2014's Godzilla. It was kind of lame.
Is that required viewing for the
Absolutely not.
That's good.
You know what is going to be required viewing, though? The movie that actually came out in between those, which was Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
King Kong movies suffer from being really, really boring because you have to spend a lot of time with the people because Kong is such a...
He's just a big monkey.
He's just a big monkey. There's not as much spectacle like there is with Godzilla. They almost never give him something else to fight.
Nope.
And so Kong Skull Island was really impressive, and that movie kind of cemented the fact that Godzilla and that they're working on the Monsterverse. They're trying to do what Marvel's doing, and then King of the Monsters sets that up for Kong versus Godzilla, which is like Prey coming out sometime between the bad sales of King of the Monsters after the bad impression that 2014 left and the current events happening in current year. Where like last movie that came out in theaters was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, like the posters are still up for it in some locations.
Oh,
that's also another Hollywood movie where at the end they climb an ivory tower and then the tower explodes.
Yes, and while Sonic's not from space, he's from it's a different
planet.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's from space.
So now you see, it's a pretty basic Hollywood formula.
Yeah.
And they were going to play it safe with Sonic because they were like, video game movie. They played it safe with Rampage because they're a video game movie, and they played it safe with Venom.
Because a comic book movie without a big name comic book character attached to it.
And now Venom's getting his own series, and we got Morpheus the Vampire, and whatever that's going to bring.
I don't know why they thought Venom wasn't going to be a popular character. Like, he hits so many different genres of things that people like. He was very popular on Tumblr before Tumblr went away. Because guess what? There's a ship in one character.
Oh my god, right?
Yeah, people ship the symbiote with him.
Well, and that was largely
that was like canon.
Yeah, I mean that is literally like the Venom plays like a goofy like rom-com, except the romantic relationship is with a parasite.
Yeah.
Venom comes to fall in love with Earth, but through Eddie. It's great. Venom is such a dumb movie. Everything about it is perfectly dumb, though.
So, speaking about very fun things that are received somewhat poorly, but still fun, I'm going to jump back to what I opened this episode with, because I want to keep talking about it.
Yeah, of course.
So, Disgaea is that. It's incredibly stupid on the surface. It's a story about demons either trying to reclaim the netherworld, destroy bureaucracy, or become the best demon student. But, like, it's incredibly fun. You get to see huge numbers. Like, the scaling in combat of Disgaea is ridiculous. You will get to level 9999, get to reincarnate, keep half of your stats, and go further. You can deal billions and billions of damage. It's incredible. So, like, the scale leads to a level of insincerity that you would initially take. That, like, oh, okay, this game doesn't take anything seriously. It doesn't take the story seriously. It doesn't take combat seriously. And then they'll hit you with real human drama. Right in the smack dab middle of this stupid story of kids in the netherworld. And that's why I love it so much. I think Fire Emblem tries to hit you with that real drama from the start. Because it's like, it's a grounded story about characters in wars or in uprisings or stuff like that. And I think that there's room for that in video games, and I see why people love it. But I also think that there's room for silly stuff that has real, like, emotionally hard-hitting moments, and people just kind of ignore it. And it made me mad, and I was thinking a lot about Disgaea recently.
No, that's fair. But I think it's pretty clear that there's two different audiences for that.
I suppose you're right.
And Fire Emblem just happens to be the one that's winning popularity right now. I'm not even sure that's all that it is.
I also think that the aesthetic of it is a little alienating from the start. What would you rather play? A game with people in night outfits doing night things, or a game where these weirdo anime characters throw penguins and things explode in hell. Like,
I mean, a lot of people really are getting into Hazbin Hotel, so...
I suppose you're right. Hazbin Hotel is gonna save Disgaea. Thanks, Hazbin Hotel. If you're good for one thing, it's gonna be good for saving this video game series that I love.
I was surprised how much I liked the first episode.
Oh, me too. But then, God, Hell of a Boss came out, and I'm like, well, I'd rather watch this, honestly.
I was also incredibly surprised and impressed by Hell of a Boss.
And now there's 2 episodes of Hell of a Boss.
Oh no, I haven't seen it.
Which means that I think that it's very obvious which one is winning not only popularity, but the thing that the creator wants to make.
Oops.
I
mean, so speaking of comparisons,
all right,
and speaking of hell,
all right,
the one thing I was incredibly bothered by with Hazbin Hotel.
All
now,
right.
I was prepared to go in
right.
and be bothered by everything.
All right.
Because
there's no limits.
There's no limits, and it just feels like the culmination of that no limits kind of...
It definitely does.
There's...
Like, especially with, like, the spoiler material that they released for Hazbin Hotel. Like, there's, like, Angel talking to, like, the guy that he just had sex with and then buying some coke. Like, that was the spoiler. That was, like, the trailer that they released.
Yeah. It's... And I was expecting it to be, like... Because it looks like a bunch of Tumblr OCs.
Definitely does.
And that's fine, because the artist is a modern artist.
Yes.
So, of course, their stuff's going to look like that, and they're doing something with it. It's fine. To say that they look like Tumblr OCs is more of to get my point across for what I'm about to say, rather than, like,
being an actual critique.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to say that it looks cringy or bad, because it's honestly fine. The aesthetic is good. But what is the radio demon? Alistair?
Yeah.
That thing came on screen and I was like, it's somebody who was not done with Bill Cipher.
Yeah.
And I couldn't shake that.
I mean, he's a little different. He's not as silly. No, he's not. Bill Cipher is the Proto-Sans. So, like, he's like Bill Cipher will look at the camera and wink. Like, the radio demon, or Alistair, at least he doesn't look at the camera. Like, yes, he's like a fan. You know what he reminds me more of? Is the Onceler. He's more Onceler.
We're going to drag all of the garbage fandoms into this conversation, aren't
we have to now.
It's not like we haven't been talking about Sonic for the last 3 episodes.
Or Pokemon. Zing. But yeah, no, Alistair is more evil Onceler than he is Bill Cipher. I think he has some Bill Cipher in there.
I think he has a lot of the Bill Cipher, like, dominance that people fixated over. Because people fixated over the wackiness, but we already had Deadpool for that.
Yeah.
People liked Bill because he was the wacky, but also the crazy, indomitable, like
the Ultra Demon.
Yeah, and that's what I think Alistair is channeling.
Yeah, he's definitely challenging that. I guess why I liked Bill was the wackiness, and then I guess not a lot of other people really liked him for the wackiness, so that's my disconnect.
I think it was probably a lot of both. People liked both, but I think that because the one thing that continues to perplex me is people who would, like, cry if you raised your voice at them in real life, but, like, Katsuki Bakugo is their husbando.
Yeah. And
that is a lot of what I'm seeing, and that is a lot of what I'm thinking is being taken from Bill and put into Alistair. I could be completely wrong. Like, maybe whoever wrote Hazbin Hotel never watched Gravity Falls. I doubt it. But I have to put that
down. I doubt it too.
But I want to put that disclaimer, because I am making assumptions.
This is a disclaimer. We are making assumptions in the podcast where we talk about things.
Okay, I'm sorry for being cautious.
No, it's I said that in a jestful manner, but I truly mean it. Like, for those wonderful audience members listening, we're not speaking here as fact. We're just speculating at the end of the day. But we're speculating with an informed opinion based on everything else we've experienced in our lives.
Right.
It's not just wild speculation. That being said, when you mentioned, like, the Bakugo thing and people who would, like, break down if you looked at them funny but then really love Bakugo and the other hard boys from anime, Like, I think it's a little bit of imprinting. Like, I think they want to be Bakugo. They want to be Alastor. They want to be Bill Cipher. And so in real life, they aren't. But they become obsessed with these characters who embody traits that they want to have.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Me who has had that analysis with my love for Sonic for years, I guess I never put the pieces together for that. I hadn't really given it fair thought. I kind of brought it up on a whim to try and dive deeper into this.
Now we're deep.
And I think
we're below the surface now.
Whoops.
Welcome.
The imprint iceberg.
And so those listeners who've listened to our first episode, that is why I asked you to please reach out to anybody who was a Gamma in your life.
Yeah, if you imprinted upon.
If you thought that E102 Gamma from Sonic Adventure had qualities that you wanted, please receive help. Because, geez, he was such a great character that I love that doesn't have any qualities I would want in myself.
Suicidal selflessness?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Gamma is an analogy for, like, the self-destructively helpful friend, right?
Exactly.
Oh, boy, that's so bad.
We're getting a little close to home here. Let's resurface a little bit.
All right. Pull us up.
We're getting back up from the bottom of the fandom iceberg here.
And, of course, the level above that is hell, so...
Oh, yeah, we're back in hell. Don't worry, anyone. We're back in hell. So, we were talking about Hazbin Hotel. Which, at the end of the day, I do want to see more episodes of. When I learned that Stamper was in it, I was really ecstatic. I love
Stamper.
Stamper is the voice of that Cobra Demon guy.
Oh, I loved that guy.
He was also in, I don't know if you ever played Battle Block Theater.
Never heard of it.
Okay. No, he's just a funny internet man.
Okay.
He did a lot of work on Newgrounds, so he's in that Newgrounds crew of Ego Raptor, Oni Plays, or Oni NG, stuff like that. So he was friends with them, and then he's just a funny internet man now. He talks like that in real life, which is why I love him.
Okay.
So I was really happy that Stamper was in it, but now it seems like Hell of a Boss is going to be more of the pushed show by that creator.
And I had heard that they were doing Hell of a Boss on the side because it was easier?
I think, well, there's less characters. A lot less characters.
Right.
And it also follows a kind of comedic format that audiences are already used to with the cutaway gag system. Like, people are already, like, I think a lot of modern comedies heavily rely on that. And Hell of a Boss also relies on it, but it's still funny. So, Hell of a Boss has a second episode now. And also it has Richard Horowitz, which still also makes me happy.
Every time you mention a voice actor, I'm gonna have to ask you.
The guy, he plays Zim.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to ask. That was actually my next question, and I didn't have the brain capacity to put the pieces together, but because that guy sounded like Zim. Was it actually?
It's actually Zim's voice actor.
How do you get...
You just ask him.
I guess,
like, at this, as much as these people who voiced our beloved characters from cartoons and video games of old, they're just people at the end of the day.
I suppose.
They're not owned by the company they used to work for.
Oh, sure. I guess it just seems like this is a small independent project without a lot of air quotes promise.
Well, I think after now here's my deep look at Hazbin Hotel. I think Hazbin Hotel was actually the proof of concept for Hell of a Boss and other animated projects by this person. Okay. I think they developed Hazbin Hotel, which is like a huge work of animation and voice acting and everything, right? It's huge. The amount of work that was put into that is incredible. And so they can show this huge, wonderful thing to different people and be like, hey, I made this. So will you voice act in this other thing for me? Look at what I made already. Isn't it good? HBO apparently picked it up. So won't you be in my smaller project, Mr. Richard Horowitz, the voice of Zim? And he says, oh yeah, sure. You seem like you have a good head on your shoulders, and you've already made this huge project. And now it's like, now I can actually make the thing I actually want to make, Hell of a Boss, with the voice actor that I wanted to get from the beginning.
All right. No, that's a very sound and reasonable...
conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I use the term lightly, folks. I'm sorry.
I was trying to dial back to the word you used at the top of this thought, and I just completely lost it. So
deep dive.
Yeah, whatever that is. So, oh my goodness gracious!
Delving into the depths of people's motives of people I've never met and likely will never meet.
So, but that's exactly the same thing I disclaimed against.
That's
with
true.
That's true. This whole segment is like air quotes trying not to make assumptions about whoever it is that's creating Hazbin Hotel.
I mean, that's true, but at the same time, we have to only be informed by everything that we already know.
Right. So, Hazbin had trailers out for
a long time.
Like
4 years.
And it sits in my mind in like this collection of other cartoons that have been stuck in that same kind of, I don't want to say development hell, but it probably is.
I think it's actually development hell.
And I was absolutely shocked to find that Infinity Train and 12 Forever managed to get on Netflix.
Yeah.
And
HBO Max too, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beyond my knowledge. I don't keep a catalog of the streaming services and what they do and do not offer.
I don't either, but I'll go on Ko once a week.
Okay.
That's how I found that Bionicle thread.
Oh! So, Infinity Train and 12 Forever, I know 12 Forever went through a severe redesign, and I think Infinity Train did too. But they came out, and of the two, I was more excited for 12 because Infinity Train was inherently more hyped.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to the one that I'm actually excited for in a second here because I feel like that one sits in the same category with Hazbin.
All right.
As sort of like the underdog against not against, but alongside Hazbin.
All right.
And so I wound up sitting down with some friends and we marathoned 12 Forever. And it was good. It was neat. It had a lot of stuff to it. It honestly... First impressions, it's manic, it's chaotic, it's absurd.
All right.
And it never really tones itself down, but you kind of get used to it.
Okay, I can see how that would work.
I'm trying to think of another show that comes on. Like, it almost does like a, dare I say it, Game of Thrones thing, where episode 1 you're just introduced to, like, the whole everybody.
Yeah, like here's everyone you're gonna need to know. Even if you forget some of them later, you'll have some sort of basis for who they are.
And it sort of does work to not really flesh a lot of them out, but integrate them in more isolated, giving them more time that they need later on. And it was honestly great. And then the creator has this controversy around her very open tweets about 14-year-old boys.
That's horrible.
So we're never getting more 12 Forever, even though there was room for it.
All right. So who's the underdog you were actually rooting for?
So I am a desert rat. I love living in Arizona. Long Gone Gulch. Hits me right in everything I love about like the desert Wild West aesthetic, and then makes it a goofy cartoon.
Yeah, I think it is stuck in development hell, but they are still moving forward as fast as they can.
Hallelujah.
You probably heard of the internet's biggest cringe lord, Pan Pizza.
No.
Oh boy.
You didn't say Christian West and Chandler, so now I'm lost.
Oh no. Okay, I'll show you him at a later date, but viewers who know about Pan Pizza know why I call him that. He does this animation podcast where he talks about animation news and the stuff that makes him very cringy, but he's had the people for Long Gone Gulch on his podcast. So, like, they're still working on it. It's not going to be canceled yet.
Sure.
It's just being independently funded right now, which makes it take a lot longer.
Gotcha.
So...
Because that... and when they finally released that trailer, it is a little more manic than I was hoping. It was a little more, like, absurd manic than I was hoping, but honestly, I'm 100% still for it. I think the characters are very cute and charming and endearing. I can't wait to see what...
And we don't get a lot of Western animated shows.
We don't. There's nothing animated set in the West, save
that comes to mind.
Yeah, like...
Or, like, Canadian cartoons. I think there was, I don't know if you ever had Nicktoons as a kid, like the sister network to Nickelodeon. It was a
familiar with some of the shows.
It had a lot of Canadian cartoons, and one of them I think was called like Spaghetti Western or something.
Oh.
Which was a Canadian Western cartoon show.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
When we talk about Canadian cartoons,
I know where this is going.
well, I don't know if you do, because this is sort of my ultra obscurity trump card.
Go for it.
So, well, two things come to mind. Okay. First, my least favorite cartoon of all time, Atomic Betty.
Okay, I know that one.
I just thought Atomic Betty was very boring.
It was kind of boring, but I do like some of the character designs.
I
like the robot.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was from the same blood of like the other cute cartoons.
Yes.
You know, yeah. But no, so there was this cartoon I used to reference somewhat regularly, and I've never met another human being who has seen it.
All right.
It was called Flying Rhino Junior High.
I've seen an episode of it, but I probably will not understand the reference.
No, and it would just... you know, like you do, you make references to media,
yes.
And I would occasionally reference Flying Rhino Junior High, and nobody in my original apartment where this all started, knew what it was or had even heard of it, and so whenever something ultra obscure or whenever like somebody made something up, one of my roommates would go, "Is this like one of those Flying Rhino Junior High things?" So. And apparently my memories of the show are completely scrambled because I thought the two black kids that were shaped like triangles were the main characters, but apparently they weren't. They were just the focus characters of the episode I saw.
All right.
So like looking it up to assure myself that it actually existed, yeah.
It surprised you.
It was very real. So apparently the premise of the show is that it's just a junior high school and the principal's a rhinoceros.
All right.
And the basement has this like comic book supervillain in it that has a computer that like I think bends reality.
Okay, so the episode is like something happens every week and they have to stop it.
Yeah, every week the villain will turn the school into some wacky nonsense.
All right, and then the principal has to stop it.
No, the principal is like almost criminally like uninvolved. I think it's like the kids. The principal is just a rhinoceros, so they can call it Flying Rhino Junior High. It has a really cute theme song. Definitely check it out. If anybody was morbidly disappointed by the Wayside Stories cartoon show, you might like Flying Rhino Junior High.
That reminds me. Now we're thinking, I guess we're on the topic of like obscure cartoons from our youth.
We try really hard to thread a needle through all of these topics, but inevitably...
There is a very, very thin and wavy needle from the beginning of this podcast to where we are right now.
So next time you're talking about Disgaea with your friends, I want you to remember Flying Rhino Junior High.
And when I'm about to bring up Yakety Yak.
Oh my god, yeah! That was a cute show.
I really enjoyed that show as a child, actually. I was excited to watch that show.
Yeah, Yakety Yak was great. Yakety Yak was like from the Camp Lazlo era, right?
Yes, but it was like a Canadian cartoon that aired on Nickelodeon.
Yakety Yak.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't thought... You know, and that, of course, like, you're now opening that...
I'm opening that chestnut right now.
Yeah, of all those weird little cartoons that are from that weird middling era. They didn't have the same staying power. They weren't old enough to be nostalgic. They're not getting remade.
Well, they are old enough to be nostalgic for us.
But they're not getting remade. No. Nobody's looking to reboot Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go.
Or Cat Scratch.
Oh, yeah! Oh, and Dave the Okay, now I know exactly where we are. Now I know exactly where we are.
Dave the Barbarian!
Yakety Yak. Okay. So Yakety Yak, I feel like... Was Yakety Yak like channeling Rocko's Modern Life?
It was channeling Rocko's Modern Life in like kind of a modern era, which is why I think I liked it so much, because I was a kid that liked Rocko.
Yeah.
So like I really liked Yakety Yak because like it was like kind of an absurd premise that was like it was like this family of yaks living in like a real person world, like, you know, anthropomorphic animals living with real people, but like none of it was like extravagant. It was all real people problems. It was mostly like Yakety just being an asshole,
right?
Like the whole show, like, and him learning a lesson at the end of the episode, which is why I liked it so much. Like, I really liked the cartoons. I guess this goes back to Disgaea. I like the extravagant universe with the grounded stories.
That's fair. So, and I guess, you know, not because it's obligatory that we have to mention it, like Sonic Adventure 2 hits that note.
Yeah, it's like fucking cartoon animals going into space, and then it's like actually a drama about like loss and learning how to love yourself. Like,
yeah. No, I think you're right. Yakety Yak did stand out. It's a shame that that's been like swept under the rug and like nobody remembers
Definitely.
it.
A lot of the old Nicktoons were eventually swept under the rug. Like, I was looking up, there's this new to us right now Nickelodeon kart racing game that I was thinking of picking up because it has a lot of wacky characters that you wouldn't assume would be in a Nickelodeon kart racing game. Like, you can be Korra. You can be Aang. You can be Cat Dog in the year 2020. Like, and it's also got assist characters with even more obscure characters from Nicktoons. Like, you can have Eugene from Hey Arnold be your assist character.
Because he's a Jinx.
Yeah, because he's a Jinx. You can
Genius.
So
best use of Eugene ever.
I also think maybe the cats are in this as an assist.
Okay.
So, like, they cut real deep. So I'm like, okay, you guys are going to cut real deep, and then they don't actually cut that deep. Like, the deepest they go, I think, is either Cat Scratch or just Cat Dog. Both cat shows, which were doomed to fail, I suppose.
Cat Dog lasted for a while.
I think it was a couple of seasons.
It got a movie.
Oh my god. I forgot the Cat Dog movie.
No, Cat Dog is in that pantheon of, like, the good, like, the Nicktoons shows that got the right treatment. Rocket Power and Wild Thornberries, they all got movies. They put a lot of love into those shows. Hey Arnold got a movie recently.
Yeah, a couple years ago. Also, almost got that MTV show.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
No.
Okay.
I just said reflexively because we're on a topic and I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
Arnold, after Hey Arnold ended, but before it was faded from the public memory, MTV and Nickelodeon are both owned by the same parent company, Viacom. They were the creator of Hey Arnold wanted to do something with the Hey Arnold IP for older audiences who were done with Hey Arnold.
Whoa.
He wanted to make a show called The Patakis on MTV.
What?
Yes. It would have been focused around Helga and her family.
Oh my god! They're perfect for MTV.
Yeah, it was perfect because you've got the workaholic dad
with the anger problem,
and with the alcoholic mom,
with the depression problem,
and the gone sister. Like, it was perfect.
Oh my god.
Like, Helga was an MTV cartoon character on a Nickelodeon show.
Bro, for real.
Yeah. Like, Helga had a lot of fucking issues.
I mean,
she went to her therapist.
Her best friend is really just Asian Daria.
Yeah. But, like, in Hey Arnold episodes, Helga went to a therapist. Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, Hey Arnold worked really hard to normalize a lot of stuff, dude.
Definitely. Like, broken families, chosen families, like...
bullies' actual insecurities.
Substance abuse.
Yeah.
Like...
Homelessness.
Homelessness. Yeah, Hey Arnold was grounded stories, but incredibly grounded reality. Like, holy shit. Hey Arnold has an almost negative aura.
Yeah.
It keeps you watching, but it makes you feel upset.
I would dare to say that, like, Hey Arnold almost carries the same vibe as Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah, but it's not as wacky.
It's not as wacky, no.
But it has the same kind of aura.
But it's amongst the pantheons of, like, our generation classic cartoons on either channel. Mm-hmm. Hey Arnold did the job for Nicktoons that Courage did for Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Because Courage had a lot of normalizing of weird stuff too,
and it dove into it was Courage the Cowardly Dog was really just like there's stuff to be scared of, but not everything that's scary is out to get you.
Yeah, like the stuff to be scared of isn't necessarily like the monster under the bed. It's like the idea of like of endings to things, or life itself. Like, God, the thing that always stands out in my mind is the freaking Last Star Squid episode. Have you seen that one?
No.
Like, they're like a space squid that makes stars, has a baby while it's being attacked, and like sends the baby to Earth, and Courage is like trying to protect it from the government and Eustace, and like the mom ends up crashing to Earth, and like the mom dies while like but before it dies, it sees its baby for the last time. And it gives the baby the strength to go back into space and make more stars.
Jeez.
It's really depressing.
Courage is a show that I've been wanting to revisit, like just a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But I'm almost intimidated.
I'm intimidated by going back to Courage.
Like, where do you drop in on Courage? Where do you drop in on any of these shows, really?
A lot of them, because they were made for serialization, it's both easy and difficult to just drop in on any random episode.
Because you could drop in on any random episode and not need any context, but you could also drop in on one of the, like, underwhelming episodes.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Like, Courage and Hey Arnold both had their share of underwhelming episodes.
I mean, Hey Arnold is literally just about like kids in a neighborhood, so not.
Yeah, well, and
I remember a
the
lot of
in the neighborhood.
Sure, but I remember a lot of those episodes being kind of boring. But maybe revisiting as an adult, you know,
I think he would see a lot that you didn't see as a child.
Yeah, and I'm sure Courage would be to a different degree the same way.
Like, there's also that episode with like the tree. Like, it's kind of like a Giving Tree analog in Courage. Like, the tree has like a face, and Courage. I think you might remember
like a realistic face?
It has a real face.
Yeah.
And like Courage is like trying to protect it from being chopped down because like it's his favorite tree to sit under when it's hot. And like the tree is like dying on its own as well, and like it talks to him about kindness. And I'm like, this is so surreal.
Yikes. Oh man. Not as sentimental, but Courage has been on my mind. I found myself accidentally quoting Eustace in Monster Hunter a lot.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's probably bad. I say it out loud. I'm like, get away from me. And I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be Eustace bad.
Oh, man. That's a little less of an obscure one, though. That was also in the pantheon of cartoons.
Yeah. Your Courage, your Powerpuff Girls, your Dexter's Lab, sure. But then there's that era, and I don't know how to distinguish that, because there's that era between those cartoons kind of coming to a close. Some of them were still on, and then like the era before, what do we have now? Teen Titans Go?
Yeah, this is still the continuation of the Adventure Time era.
Oh,
like 2010.
yes, sorry. So the in between,
so the years of 2005 to 2010. That's the in-between years.
And that's where we're sitting right now with Yakety Yak?
That's a little before, like, Yakety Yak was the beginning of that era.
Okay.
And then in Cartoon Network, that's kind of where it ended because C and Reel happened in between that time.
Oh, that's right.
And so they just cut all their cartoons.
Ugh.
One of the last cartoons was, like, Foster's, which is also one of those shows that has some real grounded episodes.
Yeah, very good show.
Yeah.
Very, very
Foster's.
Like, potent, deep show with a lot of fun wackiness, but...
Ooh, that was a real good one.
Yeah, no, I remember Foster's came out and everybody, like, parents were like, wow, I can't believe this is a cartoon. This is very good. Mm-hmm. Because I think...
Foster's got a lot more popular than I like to give it credit for.
Yeah.
Like, it had a Thanksgiving Day parade float, and they Rickrolled everybody, because that was when Rickroll was starting.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
Like, Rick Astley came out of the Foster's home, and then Rickrolled everybody with Blue and Eduardo.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, because Foster's really does seem standalone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of exists in its own little universe.
Yeah. It's too late for the era where it would have probably just been another one of the old
another
greats.
cartoon, because it was the last bastion of cartoons at the time. Because the other cartoons that were airing didn't have nearly the staying power that Foster's did. Because it was like Camp Laszlo, My Gym Partner is a Monkey.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember any of the... Oh, Squirrel Boy.
Squirrel Boy. Where was Juniper Lee?
Juniper Lee was a little before that.
Okay.
Just a little. And that had the curse of the action cartoon, where action cartoons didn't do as well as comedy cartoons.
Okay, unless they were Kim Possible.
Unless they were Kim Possible. Because Kim Possible was the only cartoon on Disney Channel. That's why. Unless you're literally the only cartoon, action cartoons don't do as well as comedy cartoons.
Oh, man.
Which is why Megas didn't get a lot of seasons.
Oh, man. Megas was so good.
Megas was so good. Like, I think about Megas a lot, actually. I think about how much fun they must have had making that show.
And where does Megas sit in all of that?
Megas sits a little in the same era as Juniper Lee because it was on Toonami.
Oh, yeah. God. So, and of course... Sorry, to springboard real quick, because I don't want to just, like, sit and list a bunch of stuff, because I don't have anything to say about Megas. But that, I feel like Megas brings us full circle to, like, inevitably talk about Symbiotic Titan.
Yes, it does.
I have never seen Symbiotic Titan, but in the last, like, 5 years of my life, I have heard an absurd amount about Symbiotic Titan. I have signed a petition to get Symbiotic Titan back on the air because somebody cornered me at a little convention at Arizona State University.
Who was it?
Some guy that I didn't know and talked very slow.
Because one of the big proponents of the Symbiotic Titan petition is also a mainstay on the Pan Pizza podcast that I brought up earlier, where they had the Long Gone Gulch people.
Lord have mercy.
So it might have been that person. I don't know.
The nerd community really is just this spider's web.
It's just a spider's web. So before we can get into... I mean, I've never seen Symbiotic Titan either, so I don't really have strong feelings about it.
Okay.
But I've also heard an absurd amount about it. But the reason I wanted to bring up Megas is because I think, and the reason I've been thinking about it a lot recently is because I think a while ago we mentioned like how like the documentation of the creative process and how a lot of that is lost. I really wish I knew what it was like to work on this show. Who was this show for? Because it wasn't for kids. Megas XLR was not a show for kids. The main characters were like 2 late 20-somethings and an alien girl. Like,
she's from the future.
And the future girl. Like, who was this show for? Was it for me right now in the year 2020? Like,
there we go, dating ourselves.
Again, I don't care at this point.
I know.
But like, it's incredible to me that this was a show that was greenlit on the Cartoon Network, a show ostensibly for children, or a channel ostensibly for children, and then this was a show that was greenlit and produced for it.
I think what you wind up with Megas, though, is the 3 main characters represent 3 branches of like what kids were about to be.
I guess maybe what kids wanted to be, or what funny kids wanted to be.
Coop is a man-child who is good enough at a trade to live as an autonomous, air quotes, autonomous adult, potentially.
Yeah. Yes.
And him being good at video games makes him a protector of the Earth.
Yeah.
And also relatable. Then you have Jamie, who's like
Spike Spiegel without a job.
But he's like the stand-in for not necessarily the character you project on yourself, but you definitely know a Jamie.
Yeah, you know a Jamie in your life.
Then Kiva is the responsible outsider, where and a lot of the time, like going into whatever era of our lives, like late teen, early adulthood, or it was teenage years. It was mid-teenage years.
Yeah, it was mid-teenage years.
I forget how long ago Megas was. Yeah, no, Jesus. Megas came out when we were in middle school.
Yeah.
But Kiva represents that, like...
The responsible friend who's acting older than they are.
Yeah. And so I feel like Megas still worked, even though the characters were... Okay, so we do have stuff to say about Megas. Sorry.
No,
we were beginning to, like, jump from cartoon to cartoon, and I was trying to find a place to land.
And we've landed.
Okay. No, I'm 100% cool landing on Megas. I just wasn't 100% sure we could carry Megas as a topic. Oh boy, but we can. And not to continue to jump around, but you have that trifecta. You have the
fun child,
the fun man child, the
slubby sidekick,
and then the responsible girl.
Yes.
And it's the same in Futurama, and it's the same in Mucha Lucha.
Yeah.
Though I would argue that Megas is a much more like inherently negative and dangerous version of these characters.
Yeah, they are.
With Kiva, the responsible girl character, arguably being the most responsible in Megas to counteract that the Ricochet Fry into Coop. Coop is much more dangerous, much more reckless, much less heroic, much less virtuous.
That's why it surprises me so much that this was greenlit. Like, okay, this trifecta works for cartoons, right? Obviously, because Mucha Lucha and Futurama came out before Megas, and that trifecta existed in those cartoons.
Yeah.
But Coop isn't a good person.
Right.
Like he's virtuous in the sense that he's willing to defend the Earth, but he's not virtuous in the sense of what he will use his giant robot for. Like,
right.
Oh, the last slushy machine was destroyed by an alien race. Like, that's not enough to go as hard as you did, Coop. Like,
he's great. And then Jamie is all the worst unimpressive parts of Bender and the Fleet. Like, he's just nobody.
And he's also an enabler. He's a huge enabler.
Right.
Because he's always like, yeah, Coop, you should do that thing that's dumb.
And I guess that's true. That is the role that Bender and Flea play to Fry and Ricochet. Yeah. They are just enablers.
They're just enablers.
But Flea and Bender have more to them. I feel like Jamie is definitely just supposed to be a sidekick.
Yeah, like, I think Jamie himself even calls himself a sidekick at some point in Megas.
I think he resents the fact that he's the sidekick in Megas.
So he accepts it. Even if he resents it, he accepts it.
That's true.
Like, to resent something, you have to accept it as fact.
I'm pretty sure there's a scene where they call him out on resenting it, and they're like, what else are you going to do? And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I guess, that's just what surprises me and why I wish we knew more about it. Is because it had this huge production. It had 3D models. Like, that wasn't cheap back then.
Yeah.
I wanted to know who this was for, and I want to pat them on the back, and I want to buy them a drink that I won't drink.
Right.
Because I really appreciate that this thing exists in my mind when it very easily, and I think shouldn't have been made, like, but it did.
And I think Megas, like, almost like how we were talking about Hazbin and these other shows, Megas only existed as a pilot for a long time.
Yeah, and then it just got, because it was part of that, like, pilot program that Cartoon Network used to do, where
the
they
Grim
would,
and Evil.
Yeah, they would grab a lot of pilots and then have the kids vote for what they wanted.
Yeah.
And the kids didn't want Megas, so why did it get made? Because the kids wanted Grim and Evil, and that's what we got. And I would go into that later, like, you know, I fucking love Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Yeah,
it's like a hallmark of.
And Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was vital. Like, we needed that show.
We needed that show. But, like, Megas was made after Grim and Evil was greenlit already.
Yeah.
Like, someone picked up Megas from, like, the ashes of... Or, like, from the pile of discarded pilots. Like, that's crazy to me.
No, this giant robot show about some schlub in New Jersey needs to be real.
Yeah.
And then he, like, held Cartoon Network at gunpoint, or we have no idea.
Someone really wanted Megas. And it wasn't for the kids. It was for someone. And I'm glad that person wanted Megas enough to greenlight it.
And it did so well. There was never a dull episode.
But we never got a Megas figure. There's not a toy of Megas.
What?
I don't believe there is, because I would have it right now if we did.
I guess that's a good enough metric to work off of. All right, that'll be for our patch notes. We're going to look up if there's
we'll look up patch notes for episode 4. Is there a Megas XLR toy, and how expensive is it?
Also, who greenlit Megas?
We'll just look up the story of Megas. Because, yeah, the Symbiotic Titan story is sad and depressing, and it deserved more. But forget about all that. I want to know about Megas, baby.
Right. Well, and so I was going to talk about Symbiotic, not so much for the show itself, but for Bendy Turnabowski.
Oh, Gendy Tartakovsky.
I knew I wasn't going to get it, so...
Husband to Emma, My Little Pony.
What?
He's married to Lauren Faust.
Oh.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. So then, because Gendy is somebody whose career is very followable.
Yes.
Because first and foremost, everything he touched was
gold. It's gold.
Unbelievable.
Do you know why Powerpuff Girls is so good? Because his wife helped him with it.
So when you said that he was married to the My Little Pony girl, that is immediately, like, I was like, well, that explains Powerpuff Girls 100%.
Powerpuff Girls was only good because they tag teamed it. And it's not to say that his work isn't good when he does it on his own.
Right.
It's perfect. It's great. I love his work. But Powerpuff Girls, like, stands out a little bit above the rest.
It's different. You can definitely see how he has a style and a tone that he likes, and he's Dexter's Lab too, right? And Dexter's Lab also stands out as being a little bit different. He definitely found he was like, I really like the action.
Yeah.
And Dexter's pushed that in some episodes for sure.
It really did. Go Dexter Family Go.
Oh my god, those episodes.
And then, because Dexter was also kind of a clip show in the first couple of seasons, where Dial M for Monkey was like a mainstay and an action show, like, as a part of Dexter's Lab.
Bring back Monkey as its own show, guys. And then he did, I really never got around to Primal. That's his most recent, right?
Primal is incredible. Primal is... Well, Samurai Jack, too.
Yeah.
Because Primal has the Samurai Jack DNA in it.
Yes, it does, very clearly.
Primal is incredible. I think you especially would love Primal.
Okay.
But yeah, like, so if we're following his work, you know, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, which is, the Curse of the Action cartoon.
Yeah.
Didn't get its final season until more than a decade later. Like... And then even then, like, had to have some strings pulled because I don't think it ended the way he wanted it to end.
Ah, that's a shame. I did not like the ending.
A lot of people didn't. I mean, I was fine with it because I was just happy that I was seeing Samurai Jack.
Of course. I'm not... Yeah, and I'm never going to complain about it,
yeah.
But I definitely didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so...
But he also did Foster's.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Foster's was his comedy-only cartoon again.
I guess that looks so different than everything else.
It looks very different,
but
less
it was him. Sharp and pointy. And...
Yeah, and Mojo shows up in it.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. Oh. Some kid makes an imaginary friend that's just Mojo Jojo, and they have a little bit about how it's bad when a kid makes an imaginary friend that's just a character from another series, and they get it a lot.
Wow. That's a weird shot to take at certain fandoms.
Yeah. And he also, like Gendy's also had a little bit of a cursed career of his own. He's really wanted to do a Popeye movie. like a CG Popeye movie, like Popeye the Sailor.
That project is Gendy?
That's Gendy.
God damn.
And it was put on hold for Hotel Transylvania.
Oh, right, because that's also him.
That's him.
Who is this guy, man?
He's just one of the most prolific animators of our time.
Ah, wow.
And it makes me happy that we get to see his work.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really good.
And even if it doesn't work, he always puts out something.
Yeah, he's always putting out something. And I've watched some retrospectives on the Hotel Transylvania series, and it doesn't look terrible.
I've seen the first two, I think. I've seen parts of both of them because a friend of mine had kids, and I got exposed to a lot of eclectic kid media when I was hanging out at their place. And I remember the Hotel Transylvania movies being funny.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the third one.
The third one is like a cruise ship movie, so...
Well, sure, but I don't know anything about it.
I heard it's the weakest of the bunch. But, the only thing that gets me about Hotel Transylvania is that, the first movie, the main girl is kind of young, and so is the main guy, and in the second movie they have kids. And I'm like, this is a little skeevy to me.
They jump forward a lot.
Okay, they don't look different. They don't look older.
Well, they definitely don't necessarily look like, especially the husband. Yeah. He does not look like an adult.
No, but they have children.
they're definitely made out to be adults in the second movie. Okay. They establish there's a huge time jump.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
No, it's not. I guess then I probably didn't see too much of the first one because I really only remember the second one.
Right.
Now that you mentioned that they were kids in the first one, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, they were like teenagers.
Yeah. So no, the second movie definitely establishes adulthood, though I'm not really sure how it compares to the first movie
I've never seen any of them, so you're a little bit more of a insight on this than I am.
Okay.
Gendy also did the animated Clone Wars.
Of course.
Yes.
And that's inevitably where we were going to go with Action Show.
Yes.
And he found here's how I can make Action Show work. Yeah. I'm going to attach it to an indomitable
IP,
and I'm going to make it 3 minutes long.
And also have it be one of the best pieces of media that this property has to offer.
Right up there with Lego Star Wars.
That
to compare those two is so blasphemous. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. The Lego Star Wars games are very fun. You could have R2-D2 kill a man. But I still think that holds up as one of the best. Pieces of media in that
Clone
whole franchise.
Clone Wars micro series is beyond expectations.
Yeah, they had nothing. They were expected to be nothing, and they were better than any of the films in that era.
For real. They did my boy General Grievous so dirty.
Well, the shorts did him justice.
Well, the shorts are his first appearance. Yeah. So
yeah.
And then
in the film,
apparently, I heard that George hadn't decided what he wanted Grievous to be yet. So Gendy was like, "Well, you gave me a 4-armed robot killer, so I'm going to make him the most badass thing in
Star Wars."
Yeah. And then George was like, but I need him to be a goofy, kind of campy, asthmatic robot cyborg. I know he's a cyborg in the movies, so I need you to fuck him up. Just fuck my shit up, fam. And then Mace Windu crushes his entire chest cavity.
Yeah.
Which was such a cool shot! Yeah. I wasn't expecting that to nerf Grievous for the rest of eternity.
It did. Well, it establishes Mace Windu as one of the most powerful motherfuckers in the era, and then he gets toasted by the fucking Emperor.
I like that there's fan theories that he could still be alive, because all he did was fly out of a window, right?
Yeah. People have survived worse in this series.
Yeah. Luke has survived worse, and we saw all of it.
We did. But we're not going to talk about Star Wars today. Sorry, fans.
Yeah, that's your little... We're talking about Star Wars only because we're riding
the cartoon high right now.
The Gendy... The
Gendy's work high.
Yeah. I'm not even going to try that last name. I'm so sorry.
Tartakovsky. Lauren Faust.
Mr. Faust.
Mr. Faust.
No, that's so bad.
No, she kept her name when they got married, so...
Well, of course. Common with celebrities, which makes sense because your name becomes your iconography.
That's true. And I don't think Lauren Tartakovsky would have been as memorable.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in the shadow of...
Oh, yeah. Because if you're a separate creator, definitely you want to have your own voice and your own name.
Yeah.
To attach to things.
You don't want to be a
Ticonderoga. I don't know.
This is so bad.
Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
And I don't feel that bad for butchering the name because it's Scandinavian.
Yes.
But still, I feel bad that I don't know it. But yeah. So, and Lauren definitely carved out her own.
She definitely did.
I mean,
for better or for worse.
For better or for worse, you know, for what it is, MLP was a very well put together and very prolific show.
I think some of the songs are very catchy.
And I think we're just kind of afraid to say anything else about it.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep. We're done.
We're done with that. If you want any more opinions on that, there's plenty of other material out there for you.
We're not the people to talk about this show.
No.
Too much history with fans of it.
Too much history. We don't want to indict ourselves in anything.
Oh yeah, it's gonna turn ugly really quick.
I'm not legally allowed to talk about MLP anymore. Not after the incident.
Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. Straighten out our spines here real quick.
All right.
Where the hell are we?
So we're lost in the... I don't want to say the word miasma, because it's not a miasma. We're lost in the sauce of worlds that are zany and wacky and a little alienating, but have grounded stories.
And I already talked about Godzilla, so I'm kind of spent. No, I'm just kidding. Did you know that the Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book series they put out, within the last decade was really, really good?
Was it IDW?
I can double check that.
We can do a pack notes.
I literally have a tab open.
You're reading it.
I've been in the middle of it for months, and I just haven't brought myself to read the last issue.
All right.
And it is made by Boom Studios.
Boom Studios. Yep. They're a lesser known, but still relatively known.
So the thing about Power Rangers is you start off with a concept that's already going to be impossible to take seriously.
Yep.
Because
teenagers with attitude.
Well, yes, and we love Zordon so much. But you start off with a series that's already composed.
Yeah,
it's
hard
to take seriously. Yeah. And so what happens, though, is even though Power Rangers has continued, and we're up at, the billionth Power Rangers iteration. Power Rangers Zexels. Actually, I watched the first couple of episodes of Beast Morphers. Pretty impressed.
All right.
I was at work working with a young kid who likes Power Rangers, and I was like, oh, is this an excuse to catch up on Power Rangers?
Yes,
of course I'm gonna. And so... But Mighty Morphin is what all reboot media is going to come back to.
Yeah, because that's the moneymaker for adults.
Right. And so the reboot movie that happened, another movie that I watched in the flurry of let's sit down and watch a movie that's probably bad.
Is it a space symbiote where they go to a tower and it explodes?
Not quite. It's actually it's formulaic.
All right.
I think it's more of the Sonic kind of formula where the bad guy is slowly accumulating stuff,
all right.
And the heroes just kind of are not aware of that.
Yeah, like the bad guy is in the shadows until the climax.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually Venom does that too, but
it also has the ivory tower.
Yeah, it's much closer to Rampage.
All right.
God, I can't believe how much I loved Rampage. I didn't even mention the fact that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the lead. Oh, it's so good.
Okay, we're going back to we will come back to Power Rangers. When you're gonna pick a video game IP to make into a movie, right? There's plenty of video games, okay? And if you have to go with something quote unquote nostalgic for 30-somethings, right? What have you got? You've got Legend of Zelda. You've got Super Mario Brothers. You've got Galaga. You've got Xevious. You've got all these video games. And you're like, you know what? Rampage. That's the video game that we'll pick.
And to be honest, it's really Rampage only in, concept. It doesn't try to follow anything established in Rampage aside from the fact that there's a gorilla, a crocodile, and a wolf or a rat.
So then... that even begs the question of why Rampage.
Right.
Why not just make it its own film and have audiences be like, hey, this is kind of like the video game Rampage.
Yeah, that is a weird thing. Why would they do that to Resident Evil?
Zing!
And Monster Hunter!
And Silent Hill.
Anyway, okay, but Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
Sorry, I needed to...
No, it's okay.
I had one last little bit of enthusiasm for Rampage that I needed to shoot out there.
And I had a big question that I had to ask.
Yeah, and then it'll never get answered because that's the same fate that befell the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Well, they are making a documentary about the Super Mario Brothers movie right now.
Wow.
Yes.
So your question about like who was in the room, like how do we?
So we're getting that for Super Mario Brothers.
You're getting the Megas XLR thing for Super Mario Brothers.
And if we're gonna get it for anything, Super Mario Brothers is a hell of a one to get it for.
My God.
Because that movie is fucking bonkers.
So Saban,
the horror terror Saban, evil businessman Saban,
who made his fortune purchasing footage of Japanese people in tights
and then
repackaging
it.
Yeah, and repackaging it.
Yep.
And so the movie was good, but the comics, oh my God. Because the movie does its typical, like, oh, we're teenage misfit melodrama. Like, they were teenagers. They were teenagers with attitude without any of the heroism, and it was great.
That's horrible.
No, it was really good, actually. I was very impressed by the Power Rangers live action movie that they did, the remake reboot thing.
Yeah, the new one,
the reimagining,
the new one.
And so the comics are much more like all the iconography is identical to the original television show. Rita Repulsa looks the same
because you don't have to worry about it because it's a comic.
Yeah, the outfits are all there, and it's all the same stuff. The Megazord is as blocky as ever.
Okay, that's good.
Beautiful.
That's good.
But it spends so much time on how fucked Angel Grove got after the first incident. Literally, like, the bulk of the comic is the kid's parents being like, I'm not going to let you out of the house anymore.
Because it's too dangerous.
Or, like, the community center being repurposed into a shelter. And, like, one of the issues, the Power Rangers can't get out to fight because they've been ushered into the shelter, and they're like, how do I slip away to save the world from this threat, even though everybody in Angel Grove thinks they're saving us from the threat right now?
Wow.
It's nuts. It's honestly like super dark, but like in a good grounded way.
It's not like grimdark for the heck of it.
Yeah. No, it's like actually these would be the consequences of everything that would happen. And the Rangers are like, God, we caused just as much of this collateral damage as the monster did. How do we deal with this? It's great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's really
Of
good.
all the things, like of course, Power Rangers has that loyal adult following. I don't know why.
Because it's a power fantasy.
Okay. Well, yeah. Why do you always answer all my questions so easily?
Because I think about things too much.
That's fair.
That's part of why we started this show.
Why do you answer all my questions so easily? That question being a question. So, yeah, no, you're right. Power Rangers is the easiest power fantasy. It's literally the line from the episode of SpongeBob. Powers come on with the suit. Why else do you think we run around in colored undies?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Power Rangers is the easy one there.
It's an easy to do power fantasy with really cool powers, and you don't really have to rely on your powers that much because you get a robot.
You're right.
Like, it's a package deal.
And the powers of being a Power Ranger is really just like
super strength,
peak performance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like in the comic, Jason and Trini, the red and yellow Rangers, they spend a lot of time, like, they go out into the desert and they're like, let's see how far we can push ourselves. And they're like throwing huge boulders at each other and punching each other across canyons. It's incredible. They're literally like, hey, we don't have anything to do. Let's just see what exactly it means to be. What does the power in Power Ranger mean?
So did they get it from like the crest?
Well,
or is it like imbued into them biologically?
You don't know anything about Power Rangers lore, do you?
Barely. So, I know Bulk and Skull.
The best part of Power Rangers lore. Dude, there's an episode in like Space or Lost Galaxy where Bulk and Skull bluff being Power Rangers.
That's hilarious.
To take the heat off of the real ones to buy them time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's such an incredibly moving scene. Like, the bad guys are like, give us the Power Rangers and we will spare your planet. We promise. Mm-hmm. And Bulk steps forward and he's like, I am the red Power Ranger.
Oh my gosh.
And Skull is like, yeah, and I'm the black Power Ranger. And then some, like, old woman comes up and is like, and I'm the Yellow Ranger.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I am Sporticus.
Yeah,
Spartacus.
I'm
Oh no. I did a lazy town by mistake.
Listen closely.
What a rotten reference. So, yeah, no, it's incredible. But, so the Power Rangers' power comes from this, like, this sort of like the Force. It's called the Morphin Grid.
Oh, okay, so it's like the Force. So it's just like... it's like an energy that's ambient in the universe.
Yeah.
And when it's needed, it goes into these people.
And it works like a pocket dimension. Like, the suits and stuff and, like, their equipment is stored in the Morphin Grid.
The Zords?
The Zords, I believe in some continuities, the Zords are stored, like, on site.
Yeah.
But I believe they're stored in the Morphin Grid. I think in the reimagining, Zordon has the Zords in a docking bay.
Okay.
In the whatever the recent movie.
All right.
But I think in some media, yeah, they come out of the Morphin Grid. And so the grid is, and there's actually, I don't know if this is canon or if this is headcanon, but like when they get hit and like sparks fly off of their outfits, that's like the Morphin Grid protecting them.
Oh, okay.
So even though their air quotes armor is spandex, it's made of the Morphin Grid stuff. Yeah, it's exactly.
All right, that works.
Exactly.
That works, right? I guess that's why the fighting game is called Battle for the Grid.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Because there have been several villains who have attempted to claim the Morphin Grid's power, and even a rogue Power Ranger who tries it. I think that's part of his goal.
Probably.
But then, the one thing that I got to complain about, I'm ambling a lot about Power Rangers, so bear with me.
I ambled about Disgaea.
Well, I know, we take turns ambling. Yeah. I always feel like mine go on longer.
No.
But so, this is something that I wish that these media would stop doing. I think that there's a point where every one of these IPs is like, we have to bring in like dimension hopping, bad future, alternate reality stuff. And
that old trope.
I'm just kind of tired of it.
Yeah, I agree.
They did it in Megas.
They did it in Megas.
They did it in fucking Megas.
They did do it in Megas.
And I guess there's already time travel in that show.
But they also did kind of play it up for laughs at the end too.
Yeah.
Where like the end episode button was in that episode.
Oh.
Like it's like, wait, how long have we been doing this? Because it was a time travel episode.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, well, the episode's almost over. And so there's a big button on Megas that says, oh, it's almost the end of the episode. And so you hit it and then Megas wins.
I love that. The buttons, I need more screenshots of the buttons on the Megas console. It's the best part of the show. But so, Power Rangers does this thing. And you can always piss me off in one easy way.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about a franchise and this kind of story arc is the first thing you bring up. Because I'm like, yeah, the Power Rangers comics are really good. And some dickhead will burst in and be like, oh yeah, because they did that timeline where the Green Ranger stays evil and he kills Rita and he takes over the world and he calls himself Lord Draken. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But also like, Trini gets a ton of character development in the mainline comics, and it's really cool. You really feel for her character, and you can tell that they spotlight her because her fucking actress died at the age of 23, and I'm gonna cry if I bring it up. And it just bothers me.
Yeah,
because it's like the least. It's
the biggest bait. That's what it is. It's bait.
And it's the storyline is cool.
How else do you draw in edgelords?
Yeah.
And because I say edgelords because edgelords are any age. Anyone can be an edgelord.
Sure.
And what's the quickest way to draw in an edgelord? A bad timeline. That's the easiest way to draw in someone who would normally not be interested in, like, oh, I liked Power Rangers as a kid. I don't really care about it now, but I like Batman. Oh, you like Batman, huh? You like dark storylines, huh? Well, in this Power Rangers comic book, the Green Ranger is still evil the whole time, and they're like, bought it. Next thing that's
And then the comic's going to be not about that. The comic's going to be about that for 20 minutes.
No, but they spent the money, and that's all I care about.
I guess. Hell, I mean...
Sonic Forces did it!
Sonic Forces... And Sonic... Well, Sonic 06 did the whole bad future thing.
Sonic CD did it, it was good!
Well, Sonic C did it, and it didn't overload itself with nonsense. Well, the levels overloaded themselves with nonsense, yeah. But, we're gonna have a Fooly Cooly episode, but we're also probably gonna need a dedicated episode for this, too.
Okay.
But I'm gonna mention it now, because even Bionicle did it.
Oh, no. Was it G2?
No. It was in prime original run of Bionicle.
When?
Well... So Bionicle introduced this thing that I kind of wish they didn't.
Which one?
So there's a mask that effectively is like Dimension Door from D&D.
Yeah.
But it also can go into alternate and pocket dimensions.
Yeah.
And so there is a alternate universe where one of the Toa winds up ruling the world with an authoritarian grip.
Okay.
And it's really super grimdark, and because it's an alternate universe, a lot of characters that we know and love get killed because there's no consequences for that. Because we're never coming back to this world.
Yeah.
And the worst part of it, because honestly, the story, while being a little bit over the top, was honestly kind of fun.
Okay.
Because it was showing, like,
this side to this character that you didn't see.
Well, and so the whole thing centers around this one character that the author just refused to let go of.
Which one?
You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know her.
Oh, no.
You wouldn't know her because she's only in side stories, and she doesn't matter. He introduces her, and he introduces a plot device with her, and she's in a short story that explains the plot device and its purpose, and then that bleeds back into the main story when the villain is looking for the remnants of that plot device.
Okay.
And then she's dead by this time.
Dead. Okay.
But the author keeps finding ways to bring her back. And he keeps writing her in, and nobody likes her, and she's not cool, and she gets a cool death in her own, like, alternate universe, the Toa Empire side story. But it's just the thing that bothers me the most about these is how much it disrupts
the story.
It disrupts the point of the story, and that's why it makes me so mad with Power Rangers.
This is Rewubby.
Jesus Christ.
Let's bring back the character that I care about, that nobody cares about, to ruin the story yet again.
Is that the fate that befell Rewubby?
I believe so. I've only watched the 2-hour-long H-Bomber Guy video about
Same.
it.
I actually, I did try to watch Ruby. I watched the first episode, and
oh boy.
Man,
boy.
First and foremost, I want to establish, I mean no disrespect
definitely.
to Monty.
Or, like Monty Ohm?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to disclaim any media that I personally do not like. I do not hate people who like the thing.
I'm going to go ahead.
That's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
But just because you like something doesn't mean I'm going to hate you.
That's fair.
That's what I'm establishing.
I don't hate Ruby fans who are Ruby fans. I hate Ruby fans who are dickheads.
Yeah. No, I hate people who suck.
Yeah.
I don't hate people who like Rewubby and are otherwise fine people.
And actually, I can't think of an instance where...
Like, we're friends and I like shitty things.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am too.
But actually, of all these series, I can't think of a person I know who likes Ruby that, like, I don't actually like as a person.
All right.
And so, I mean no disrespect to Monty Ohm. Cool animator, you know, very, very talented, very dedicated guy. But the character designs in Ruby, as somebody, mind you, as somebody who crawled himself out of the, like, anime, weeaboo, nerd, like, learned drawing from how to draw manga books that were written by Americans. Mm-hmm. Ruby gave me the secondhand embarrassment immediately.
Yep.
Everything about the character designs was just so American how to draw manga book. In my opinion, that's the vibe it gives me. I don't know what Monty's inspirations were, but that is the vibe that
those
Ruby...
were his inspirations.
Well, then he did a good job of conveying that because oh boy, I couldn't sit with it. And then it was just like I had watched Soul Eater already.
Yeah. I've already seen this.
Like, everything else that could have been cool about Ruby, I already got out of Soul Eater. It's the same reason I didn't stick with Naruto. I already had Dragon Ball.
Yeah. I mean, these shows are for new generations who didn't already have the thing.
Sure, and I get that, and that's fine. So that, if listeners, if you ever talk to me and you're like, boy, Ruby, and I'm gonna just like kind of stare blankly at you and try to be respectful and do a very very bad job at it, because that's what I do.
Yes.
That's it. It's my dislike of Ruby is way more personal than I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
It comes a lot from my own rejection of parts of my past.
All right.
I could have, if I were an animator, I could have made, if I started animating in high school, I could have made Ruby, and I'm happy I didn't.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not an animator. I don't have the level of dedication. I've never completed anything artistically, and so...
You're not claiming superiority, you're just claiming that you're happy that you didn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I'm trying to say that I'm not trying to say that I'm on par with Monty Ohm in any caliber.
No, you're just saying that you're not happy to be the one to have made Ruby, even though you see it could have been in your blood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's this niche, there's this specific gene that I had, and so to speak.
And it wasn't dominant.
Yeah. And so I think that's why Power Rangers is such an interesting thing, because you're taking a Japanese concept and you've distilled it in an American setting for so long
that it's lost all semblance of being a Japanese thing.
And it's not made by people who are like anime fanboys or like Sentai fanboys. No. It's just somebody repurposing a concept.
Yep.
And that's interesting. It's not, and we see that done a lot, and it's not always good.
No.
God, rest in peace, the American Sailor Moon.
And I think we're seeing the opposite of it happening too. I think the newer Kamen Riders are kind of more like Power Rangers used to be than how Kamen Rider used to be. Or it's teenagers being Kamen Rider instead of more adult people, and they're juggling school life or romance life and being Kamen Rider.
Did you jump to Kamen Rider because I mentioned Sailor Moon?
I jumped to Kamen Rider because we're talking about Power Rangers and Sentai.
Oh, okay.
And how Power Rangers is more distance from Sentai. Power Rangers is more of its own American thing.
Yeah.
But how Kamen Rider, which is Sentai, has adopted this kind of gene from American old Power Rangers, which is a weird thing to happen.
I was playing off of the fact that I think those are the two that are married.
Really?
The Sailor Moon girl is married to, I want to say the Kamen Rider guy, but I might be wrong.
I don't know.
She's married to somebody else big in the industry.
Is it Dragon Ball? Is it Akira Toriyama?
No. Because Akira Toriyama would have it would have been a Gendy and
a Lauren thing.
The two of them would have worked on something together. Akira can't help it being
that'll be patch notes too.
Yeah, who is the Sailor Moon writer married to? No, but sorry, I lost it. What were you just talking about?
About how in a weird wraparound, newer Kamen Rider is more like older Power Rangers.
And so, okay, but that is actually, we're still snorting that main line right now, because you have original anime, which is inspired by old American characters like Betty Boop with the big eyes and the baby faces.
Yep.
Then you have shows like
Panty
and Stocking, which are American inspired by anime. And then sorry,
it's a Japanese show inspired by American shows, which are inspired by anime, which were inspired by American shows.
We skipped a step. There's something in between Panty and Stocking and original anime where Americans adopted the anime style, and then Panty and Stocking is parodying that as an idea.
Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, Powerpuff Girls. Thank you. Yeah. So Panty and Stocking is inherently parodying
Powerpuff Girls.
Americans being influenced by the Japanese, being influenced by the Americans.
Yep.
And and I think My Little Pony fits in there somewhere in that chain of command. But Panty and Stocking is sort of like the apex, semi-self-aware version of it. Mm-hmm. And Panty and Stocking is another show full of nonsense. Panty and Stocking is another show where this is very clearly, if a show is going to call itself out for being a reference to a reference to a reference, it's going to be this.
Yes, because it was like Gynax being unleashed for a little bit again, because they rarely get to do so, and whenever they get to do so, it's always really charming and wonderful. Unless I'm wrong about it being from Gynax and it was actually by Trigger, but I don't.
I think it was Gynax before it was Trigger.
I believe it was Gynax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Because I don't remember the name Trigger happening around. Because I remember my time with Panty and Stocking very well.
Yeah.
It was around that late high school. I had a laptop. I was staying up late. Yeah, I was staying up late binging stuff.
That's why I don't think it was Trigger, because Trigger was Gurren Lagann.
Yeah,
and that's where my disconnect with anime began, and that'll be another episode.
Oh boy,
where I fell out of favor with anime because of giant robots and horrible characters.
Yeah, that sounds like a good premise for an episode.
Yeah. How we fell out of favor with things.
How we fell out of favor with anime is a great jumping off
point.
point.
How anime lost us.
Yeah.
And how we found it again.
And then falling out with other stuff for sure, because I'm kind of teasing that now. Like none of these dark timeline stories have made me lose interest. But I'm the reason why I'm sitting on this last issue of the Power Rangers comic is because it goes. It bridges into the parallel sister accompanying comic, which is the dark timeline stuff, which personally I'm just not interested in.
Yeah, like that's the least interesting thing. That's why Shadow the Hedgehog sucks. It's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, is the dark timeline in the main timeline.
Yeah.
Boy, Sonic screwed this up 3 different occasions. 4 different occasions.
They're not new to screwing things up multiple times.
God damn.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, I think we went on our little tirade. I'm out of steam.
I think we're out of steam.
We're at the launch pad for ideas that would take up a whole nother episode.
And we're already almost an hour and a half in.
So join us next time. I have been Jesse.
And I have been Tony.
And it's still cool, even when it tries a little too hard.